Alright, settle in. This one's long, but I promise every single minute is worth it. My name is Cole. Right now, I'm 23, sitting in an apartment that I pay for myself in a city my parents have never visited, drinking coffee that cost more than my childhood bedroom deserved. And I'm about to tell you the story of the night my family finally showed me exactly who they are, and how I'd been 3 steps ahead of them for years. But to understand the ending, you have to understand the beginning, and the beginning is boring suburban misery. So let me make it interesting. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods where every house looks the same. Beige siding, 2-car garage, same Ring doorbell watching you come home with nothing to show for the day. My parents are decent people in the way that a lot of mediocre people are decent. They pay their bills, they show up to things, they mean well. The problem is, meaning well and doing well are 2 completely different skill sets, and my parents had only one of them, and they kept spending it on the wrong kid. That was my older brother, Max. Back then, he was 19, and if you'd met him, you would have liked him. That's the thing about guys like Max, they're engineered to be liked. 6'1", easy smile, the kind of laugh that fills a room. He played 2 years of high school lacrosse before quitting to focus on his brand. His brand was an Instagram account with 1,100 followers where he posted blurry gym selfies and motivational quotes he definitely didn't write himself. My parents thought he was going to be a mogul. I thought he was going to be a cautionary tale. It turns out we were both right, just on different timelines. If you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel. So here's the part that'll either make you laugh or feel deeply sad depending on how much you relate to it. I was 16. I'd been running a digital storefront for about 8 months selling pixel art asset packs for indie game developers. Sprite sheets, animated icons, tile sets, the whole thing. I'd found a gap in the market. You see, most game dev communities were full of coders who could not draw, and most artists in those spaces were charging triple what they were worth because they knew it. I came in with quality stuff at fair prices, built a reputation, and slowly those customers started talking to each other. Word spread. I built a Discord community around it. I called it the Pixel Forge. By the time I was 16 and a half, I was clearing $3,000 a month. My parents thought I was playing video games too much. One evening, I remember this so clearly, I was sitting at the kitchen table on my drawing tablet working on a commission. My headphones were on. My dad walked by, looked over my shoulder, and he goes, "Cole, I worry about you. You spend so much time on that screen. Look at your brother. He's out there building relationships." I looked up, pulled one earbud out, and said, "And what exactly is Max doing right now, specifically?" And my dad says with a completely straight face, "He's at a networking event downtown." My mom from the other room chimes in, "He's meeting investors." I didn't say anything. I just nodded and put my earbud back in. Because I knew for a fact that Max had texted me 40 minutes earlier asking if I knew where Dad kept his emergency credit card because he was at a rooftop bar and needed to cover a round for some of his guys from his mastermind group. And that was the moment I stopped wanting their approval. Not in a dramatic, crying in the shower kind of way, just quietly, the way that a light switch flips. I looked at the screen in front of me, at the commission I was finishing that was going to pay me $400, and I thought, I don't need a single thing from these people except a roof and breakfast. So I got to work. By 17, I hit $8,000 a month. I started selling tutorial packs, then I licensed some of my original asset bundles to 2 small indie studios. I kept every receipt. I opened my own savings account the day I turned 18. No cosigner, no parental help, no conversation about it at all. They thought my gaming thing was a hobby. It was a business, and I was running it out of a bedroom they still thought was a mess. Now, Max's 19th birthday. Let me paint you the full picture. My mom had been low-key planning this for months. She'd mentioned it at dinner in February. She was calling this his launch into adulthood. That should have been a red flag right there. Nobody launches into adulthood with a surprise party and a bow on something expensive, but here we were. The morning of his birthday, my dad pulls a white Ford Bronco Sport into the driveway with a red ribbon on the hood. Not a used one. New. $42,000 of new, which I knew because I Googled it while standing at the window watching Max literally jump up and down like a little kid. The whole neighborhood came out. There were photos, there was cake at 11 in the morning, my mom was crying. My dad was doing that thing where he claps a man on the back and calls that emotional intimacy. My birthday is 3 weeks later. I turned 18 on a Tuesday. My parents were taking Max to dinner, some steakhouse he'd been wanting to try, his belated celebration, and my mom left a note on the counter with a $20 gas station gift card and a sticky note that said, "Happy birthday, Cole. So proud of you. Dinner when we're back." We didn't have dinner when they got back. They got home late and my dad fell asleep on the couch. I took that gift card, put it face down on the counter, and ordered myself a $1,500 mechanical keyboard and a new monitor. I treated myself to a $50 steak from the Good Butcher downtown, cooked it myself, and ate it at my desk while finishing a Sprite pack. Best birthday I ever had. Genuinely. But I want you to hold on to that image, that $20 gas station gift card on the counter, because it's going to come back. Okay, here's where the story really starts. 6 weeks after his birthday, Max took the Bronco out on a Wednesday night. He told my parents he was meeting a friend to look at potential business space. In reality, I only pieced this together later. He'd been drinking at a friend's place, got in the car way too late and way too confident, and somewhere around 1 a.m. he took a turn too fast near the reservoir on the east side of town and clipped a utility pole hard enough to shear it sideways. The car wasn't totaled, but it wasn't drivable. The airbags deployed. There was a chunk of the front bumper sitting in somebody's lawn. Max's blood alcohol, as we'd find out later, was 0.12. The legal limit is 0.08. He was smart enough to know that if he called the police, he was looking at a DUI, destruction of property, and the complete obliteration of this golden son narrative that my parents had built their entire identity around. So instead of calling the police or calling my parents, Max called his best friend, Dylan. A guy with the kind of energy a golden retriever has who's smart enough to be dangerous, and the two of them cooked up a plan. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Then again. Then I heard my mom scream down the hall. I mean, a real scream, the kind that gets into your spine. I was already awake. I was finishing a rush commission for a Texan studio that was launching in a few days and needed a final asset pack. I threw my headphones off and walked into the hallway to find my mom standing at the top of the stairs, hand over her mouth, and my dad on the phone looking the color of old newspaper. He showed me a text. It was from Max's number. All caps. We have your son. We have the car. 40,000 in Venmo or crypto by Friday morning or you won't see him again. Do not call the police. My mom was on the floor, the actual floor. My dad was pacing, and he was already doing the math out loud, talking about retirement accounts, talking about whether he could call his brother for a loan. And then he looked at me. He had this expression that I'll never forget. It wasn't panic exactly, it was calculation. My dad, in the middle of a kidnapping, looked at his younger son and ran a quick internal cost-to-benefit analysis. Cole, he said, you've got money saved from your art stuff. How much? This is a life-or-death situation. He said it like it was nothing, like my 18 months of 7 days a week work was a piggy bank that existed exactly for this purpose. I looked at him for a long second. I've got about $40, I said. Most of it's tied up in software subscriptions. He slammed his hand on the wall. My mom was sobbing, and I walked back to my room, closed the door quietly, and sat down at my desk. Not to do nothing, but to work. Here's the thing nobody in my family understood about me. I'm not emotional in a crisis, I get focused. The first thing I did was open Find My on my laptop. Max and I were still on the family sharing plan. He'd never bothered to turn it off because, frankly, he'd never worried about anyone tracking him. His AirPods came back immediately. A Best Western Plus about 15 minutes from the reservoir. The Bronco's location was different. It was still pinging from the side of the road near the reservoir, not moving. I pulled up the local town Facebook group, which is honestly the most underrated intelligence-gathering resource in existence, and found a post from 40 minutes earlier. A woman named Linda had posted a photo of a broken utility pole leaning into a ditch with the comment, "Anyone know what happened here? I was driving home from my shift and nearly swerved right into it." In the background of Linda's photo, barely visible, was the rear corner panel of a white Ford Bronco Sport in the grass. I screenshotted everything, but I wasn't done. Max, and this is important, had connected the Bronco to our family's Spotify because he kept forgetting his own login. So his listening history still synced to the family account. I opened it up at 1:03 a.m., Nights by Frank Ocean. At 1:19 a.m., nothing. The stream just stopped, which is exactly when I estimated the crash happened. Then at 2:14 a.m., an hour after the crash, 33 minutes before the ransom text, somebody used the same Spotify account from a different device to play Rich Flex by Drake and 21 Savage. That was Dylan's account. Dylan had always used our family Spotify because Max gave him the password in 10th grade. I knew Dylan's taste in music. I'd been accidentally getting his horrible playlists auto-generated into my recommended for 3 years. Max was at the Best Western. Dylan was with him. They'd crashed the car, panicked, cabbed it to the motel, and were now trying to squeeze a ransom out of my parents while eating delivery food. I had the location. I had the timeline. I had the Spotify data. I had Linda's Facebook photo, and then I found the last piece. The Bronco had a dash cam, one of those cloud-connected ones my dad had installed specifically because Max had gotten 2 parking tickets the previous year and my dad wanted accountability. I logged into the app with our household credentials and pulled the last recorded footage. It was Max, singing along to Mr. Ocean, one hand on the wheel, clearly not sober, taking a curve on the old reservoir road way too hot. The impact cut the footage. But before it did, you could very clearly hear him say, "Oh no!" I sat back in my chair. I opened a blank document and started writing everything down in order with timestamps, links, and screenshots. Not because I planned to confront them dramatically, but because I'd learned over years of client work that documentation is everything. You want to win an argument? Bring the receipts. Around 7 a.m., Max walked through the front door. He had a small cut above his eyebrow. I later found out he'd given it to himself with a piece of gravel in the motel parking lot to sell the escaped from captivity angle. He was wearing a torn shirt. He had this look on his face like he'd rehearsed it, haunted, shaky, heroic. My parents lost it. My mom rushed to him, holding his face, crying. My dad grabbed him by the shoulders like he was checking him for damage. The whole scene played out, and I watched it from the kitchen doorway, holding my coffee. Then I said his name. Max! He looked up, and I watched the color leave his face the way water leaves a bathtub, fast and then completely gone. How was the Best Western? I said. My mom turned around. Cole, please. I opened my laptop and turned it around on the kitchen counter. The Find My screenshot, the Facebook post with Linda's photo, the Spotify logs with the timestamps, the dashcam footage, queued up, paused on Max's face. My dad read it in silence. My mom read it. Max just stared at the counter. My dad said, Max, tell me this isn't... And that's when a knock came at the door. It was the police. The dashcam company had a system flag for accident footage under certain impact thresholds. When a clip met that flag and included what their AI recognized as a phone call in the aftermath, it automatically forwarded it to an insurance review queue. The insurance company had reviewed it the same morning and filed a report. The police were there as a follow-up to the utility pole damage and the missing driver from the previous night's incident. They had Max's plates from Linda's photo. They'd already been looking. My dad had sent $8,000 to the ransom wallet before the police arrived. I watched him realize in real time that the money was gone and it was never coming back. I watched him look at Max in handcuffs, leaving the scene, filing a fraudulent police report, extortion, property damage, and I wondered how 20 years of Golden Sun mythology would collapse like a badly loaded shelf. He turned to me. I already knew what was coming. He wanted the lawyer money. I picked up the gas station gift card from the counter, still sitting there from my birthday, face down exactly where I'd left it, and I held it out to him. There's about $18 left on that, I said. I got some gas last week. He didn't take it. I set it back on the counter. I'd already signed a lease on a place in the city 2 weeks prior, shared with 2 other developers I'd met through Pixel Forge. My stuff was in a storage unit 20 miles away. I'd been planning the exit for 6 months, not out of spite, just out of clarity. I knew this house wasn't going to hold me much longer, and I'd rather leave clean than be pushed out messy. I went back to my room, put my headphones on, and shipped the final asset pack to the Texan studio. They left me a 5-star review that afternoon. Life, honestly, does not pause for family drama. I moved out that Saturday. Max got 18 months of probation, community service, and a civil case with the utility company. The Bronco was a total insurance write-off, and because the crash was listed as operator fault under the influence, my parents were liable for the deductible. My dad got a second job doing weekend deliveries for about 4 months. My parents text me periodically. Sometimes it's checking in, sometimes it's a little too friendly in the direction of, we're both a bit short this month. I keep those replies short. I don't hate them, that's the part people always seem surprised by when I tell this story. There's no big, dramatic estrangement. I just graduated. From needing them, from wanting them to see me, from waiting for the moment they'd look at the invisible kid and finally focus. I stopped waiting and I started building. It turns out the building was the whole point. Pixel Forge is still running. I have a small team now, 2 part-time artists and a community manager. We're working on our first standalone game. I've got an apartment I love, a cat named Clyde who has never disappointed me once, and a work setup that would make a 16-year-old cry. Somewhere in an old drawer in my bedroom, I'm sure there's an $18 gas station gift card sitting face down. They can keep it. They're going to need it. So, what do you think of the story? What would you do in Cole's position? Would you help your family? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching to the end. Bye for now.